Welcome back to Her Becoming. I am your host, Kayla Countryman. We are discussing one of my most requested topics today, which is also coincidentally one of my favorite things to talk about and completely nerd out on. We are discussing all things menstrual cycle syncing, and living in flow with your body. We are continuing this January theme of embodiment, of self-trust, and of getting back into our bodies following the holidays. And I felt as though this episode paired perfectly into this theme because understanding the inner workings of your body is a direct path to understanding yourself, to understanding your intuition, and to living a life that feels more aligned and more intentional. So to give you a little bit of context here, for years, I have researched cycle syncing, I have researched menstrual cycle, I have studied myself and really taken it into my own hands to learn my own cycle to the point where I'm kind of psychotic about it. You could approach me in the street at any given time and I could tell you exactly what day of my cycle I'm on and which phase I'm in. That is how locked in I am on this topic. And it's something that I'm really proud of because understanding my cycle to this extent changed my relationship with my body completely. It changed my relationship with productivity. And more important than anything, it changed my relationship with self-worth and increasing my self-worth over the last 3 to 4 years. So this episode will essentially be a masterclass on your cycle. You can take notes. You can come back to this as many times as you want. You can save it, download it, share with a friend. I know this feels like it's for the girlies, and it really is for the girls, but fellas, don't leave. If you date women, this episode is like a cheat code. This is going to really up your game. So don't let the title scare you away. Don't let my intro scare you away. But yes, this is for my girls because I care deeply about you actually understanding what's happening in your body. From a really young age, we are taught to push, to override, and to just really ignore our bodies. Cycle syncing really invites us to work with our bodies instead of against them. And I want to give credit first to the woman who coined the term cycle syncing. Her name is Alyssa Vitti. She is the founder of Flow Living, FLO Living. Definitely look her up. She has been one of my greatest teachers just virtually in reading her literature and following her and understanding what cycle syncing really is and how I can apply it in my own life. I did not invent this term. This is not just coming from me. I have had the privilege of learning from so many incredible leaders, guides, and teachers on this topic, and I'm really grateful for that. So first, I want to acknowledge the fact that most women are never taught about cycle syncing in school. I don't know about you, but there was like this one day in fifth grade where they like taught us about our period and then it was never spoken about ever again. So there was absolutely no education around our cycle, around what's really happening in the body. It was kind of just like a, hey, this is going to happen to you one day. Best of luck. And regardless of the fact that we have this menstrual cycle, we are expected to function the same every single day throughout the entire cycle. And then also to have the same capacity and productivity and energy as men do, while men run on a completely different 24-hour cycle. So let me break this down and we'll really get into it. But I just wanted to offer some nuggets to really get you thinking here. First of all, what is the menstrual cycle? So I keep using the words cycle syncing and menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is a monthly hormonal rhythm that prepares the body for a potential pregnancy. That's what it is in its truest definition. You often hear women say, I'm on my cycle in reference to their period, but that's actually not correct. We are always on our cycle. Our cycle repeats every 28-ish days, and our period is just one phase of the cycle. And it's not just about your period itself, whether you have bad periods or manageable periods. That's part of it, but it's not just that. Your menstrual cycle, this 28-ish day period, affects your energy, it affects your mood, it affects your focus, it affects your creativity, it affects your physical strength. And so that's really where cycle syncing comes into play. Cycle syncing is making lifestyle, movement, nutrition, and productivity choices that align with each of the 4 phases of your cycle. So your menstrual cycle is the monthly hormonal rhythm itself. And then when I use the term cycle syncing, I'm talking about how you make changes in your life to better attune to the nature of each phase of your cycle. A couple of disclaimers here before we really get into it. When I'm speaking about your cycle, know that 21-ish to 35-ish days can be normal. I'm going to use 28-day cycle as the just standard example in this episode, but know that that is not by all means how it works for everyone. If you are on hormonal birth control, this might not be relevant to you, as you're probably experiencing a withdrawal bleed instead of an actual period. But it's worth doing your own research, speaking to your medical provider. Major disclaimer here, I am not a doctor. This episode is by no means medical advice. It is meant to serve for educational purposes and to help you understand your body and encourage you to do your own research. Okay, so let's get further into cycle syncing. Again, making lifestyle adjustments based on each phase of your cycle. It is not about restriction or perfection. It's really just about becoming aware and getting into alignment with your body so that you can have more compassion for yourself and that you can decrease your burnout, be more in flow, and really live with less self-judgment because you have a deep understanding of what your body is going through all throughout them. So for the sake of today, I'm going to take you through all 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. I'm going to share what's happening hormonally through each phase. I'm going to share how you can adjust your workouts, what it means for your productivity levels and your focus and your social battery, and then also dietary changes that will support you through each phase. All right, so the first phase of our menstrual cycle is our menstrual phase. And something that is really cool about our cycle is each phase is also associated with a season. This is really fascinating to learn more about. Again, I encourage you to do your own research, but the menstrual phase is known as the inner winter or the winter season. And what's happening during our menstrual phase? We are bleeding. That is day 1. Your cycle begins on day 1. That is the first day of your bleed. At this point, your estrogen and your progesterone are both at their lowest, and your body is shedding the uterine lining. That is just what's happening physically. Because of all of this, your energy naturally dips. You probably feel slower, more depleted. You might have cramps, headache, bloating, all of that stuff that visits us every single month. During your menstrual phase, it's really important to slow down on the movement. We grew up seeing like Tampax commercials of people full on sprinting and playing tennis, bleeding, just like shoving in tampons as a solution. And to some extent, I guess when you're younger, there's no way around that if you play sports. But as an adult, if you have the choice to really slow down your movement and know that you do not have to go full send it when you're bleeding. Restorative yoga, gentle stretching, walking, deep breathing, meditation, or even just full rest without guilt. Because guess what? Your body is under a lot of stress in shedding that uterine lining, and it's taking a lot of energy from you already. There's no need to be at 6 a.m. spin if you don't need to. During this phase, you're going to feel lower energy. So as far as your focus and productivity, it's a really good time for reflection. It's a great time to journal, to vision, to maybe look at your past month and just reflect on what went well or what didn't go well. Not the best time to have high pressure deadlines or long meetings or to lead a workshop, as best as you can control. Of course, none of this is a perfect system. You can't just decline all the meetings on your calendar because you're on your period. If you worked for me, I would allow that. But unfortunately, we can't all work for me, and I can't even do that at my 9 to 5. So, not the ideal time for those higher energy exerting meetings and things, but not everyone can plan around that. If you can, try to avoid just to, again, spare your energy. As far as dietary support, while you are bleeding, you want to focus on warm, grounding foods. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's really important to keep your midsection, your womb space, really warm, especially around your period. And wear socks. You guys know if you've listened to past episodes, I wear socks like all the time because of traditional Chinese medicine. But as far as your diet, warm, grounding foods, think soups, stews, lots and lots of teas. If you're into herbs, nettle tea, red raspberry leaf tea, those are the two that come to mind. Spearmint tea can also be really supportive for nausea. So making sure that you are feeding yourself warm, nutritious foods. And then also getting lots of iron. So lentils, beans, and leafy greens should definitely be in rotation when you're on your period. And then making sure that you're staying hydrated and getting lots of minerals in. I know for me, I like to drink electrolyte packets. I like elements when I'm on my period just because it helps me feel a little bit more replenished on a time where I tend to feel depleted. Okay, next up is your follicular phase, which is also called inner spring. So your follicular phase is when your period ends up until you ovulate. I want to give the caveat, some sources and teachers will include your period as the follicular phase and just consider that whole first half of your cycle follicular. I like to break it up menstrual and then follicular because they're so different in all of these categories, and I think it just makes it easier to consume. So this is after your period ends for the sake of this conversation, up until you ovulate. So think like day 5, if you've bled for 5 days, think, okay, day 5 up until around day 14, that would be your follicular phase. At this point, estrogen begins to rise. Brain chemistry supports optimism and curiosity, and your energy slowly increases. So, this is the time at the end of your period where you start to feel like yourself again and you don't feel just like a little gremlin under the covers anymore. We all know the feeling if you bleed. That's your follicular phase. So, in this phase, when you're starting to get your energy back, workouts that feel good might be strength training, Pilates, dancing, brisk walking. It's a really good time to try new classes or new routines, take a class with a friend or try group fitness. A great time to be social in general. Like during your follicular phase, go crazy on the plans. Say yes to all the things because you're going to feel like it more so than you felt like on your menstrual phase. As far as focus and productivity, it's a really great time for brainstorming, for planning, starting new projects, for learning, for creativity and curiosity. It's just a wonderful time. Women, I know we always joke, like, we only get like one good week out of the month. That's the follicular phase that you're referring to. It is the best time. It is my ideal time to record podcast episodes, my ideal time to go into business planning and yearly and quarterly planning and all of those things that take my undivided attention. Follicular phase, chef's kiss. As far as your diet, you want to be focusing on lighter, fresher foods, getting lots of protein and fiber. You could really lean into gut support during your follicular phase by getting fermented foods, so like kimchi, really great. And as always, plenty of throughout your entire cycle, of course, nutrient dense, whole, colorful foods are going to be the focus. But I hope this does help you understand. You can make slight tweaks throughout the cycle that will just help you get the nutrients that your body and your hormones need at that time. Okay, next up is ovulation, ovulatory phase, aka inner summer, everyone's favorite time. So, ovulation is when the ovary is releasing an egg, essentially preparing the body to get pregnant or not get pregnant. This usually happens around day 14. Estrogen peaks, testosterone increases, and communication and confidence are really high. This is when you are like glowing. This is when your energy is essentially at its peak. You feel really sexy. You feel really confident. Your libido increases. Your desire to be social increases. Ovulation just feels good. And I don't want to make this one size fits all because some women do experience ovulation pain or cramping or even get kind of sleepy around ovulation. Everyone is so different. But for the sake of this episode, ovulation, we outside. That's what ovulation feels like. It is just like that full body send into feeling yourself. Unfortunately, it's the shortest of the phases, which I find very rude. But the follicular into ovulation is like the best pipeline. During this, best workouts would be HIIT, strength training, running, anything cardio, high energy group fitness. Get it out in ovulation. Not to say that you can't throughout the rest of the month. Of course you can. But if you're someone like me who is maybe competitive or just like really likes working out, I find that around ovulation is the best time for me to like get in extra tennis sessions or lift heavier in the gym or really challenge myself and push myself. Whereas in the luteal phase, which we'll get into next, I tend to dial it back. So ovulation is a great time to really get in those challenging activities. But again, I'm not saying that it's only possible in this phase. As far as focus and productivity, very similar to your follicular phase. Great time for presentations, sales calls, podcast interviews, networking, social engagements of any kind, because around your ovulation, around cycle day 14, you are naturally more magnetic and just more expressive. You have a glow to you. When I was doing business coaching, I planned all of my workshops around my ovulation. And same with podcasting, follicular to ovulation pipeline. That's when I try to batch record as much as I can because of the natural magneticism that happens. I also find, and this could just be a me thing, but I do think that there is science to this. I just need to look into it. Less brain fog. So for me, I find myself tripping over my words a lot less around ovulation as well as in follicular phase, and just feeling more confident in using my voice and speaking. So just food for thought there. And then as far as your diet with your ovulation phase, you want to be focusing on anti-inflammatory foods, as always, colorful fruits and veggies, as always, and then lean proteins, lots of hydration, etc. I feel personally like my body is pretty easy to please when I'm ovulating as far as my diet. So it's not a time where I need to be like super dialed in on the exact nutrients I'm getting. I can just eat my baseline diet and feel really good. And then everyone's favorite, that's sarcastic, luteal phase, which is also called the inner full. Your luteal phase is after ovulation up until you get your period, which would be when your next cycle begins. So typically this is like day 16 or 17 up to day 28. It is the longest of the phases. That is rude, but we deal with it anyways. What happens in your luteal phase is your progesterone rises and then it drops if you're not pregnant. Your energy gradually decreases because of that drop in progesterone, and your nervous system is more sensitive. So this is the phase that I like really want to dial in on, because this is the one that I think, I don't want to say causes the most problems, but I do think it is the one that causes women to be hardest on ourselves and to experience some self-deprecation or some lower self-esteem and just some moody feelings. So during your luteal phase, it is very likely that you are going to experience mood swings. It is very likely that you are going to PMS when you get to the second half of your luteal phase. You might experience bloating, some headaches, and again, I'm just going to repeat it, mood swings, irritability, tears, all of those are very normal during your luteal phase because your nervous system is more sensitive. And because this phase is nearly 2 weeks long for most women, it can feel like you're just in this all the time. I'm personally in my luteal phase right now, but I am in my early luteal phase, which I like to differentiate from your late luteal phase, because personally I feel, and a lot of teachers agree with this, that first week of your luteal phase, you still kind of have your energy and you're still feeling pretty good. And then that second week of your luteal phase, when you go into sort of PMS mode, that's when shit kind of hits the fan. So as far as workouts in your luteal phase, I'm going to differentiate between early and late luteal. So when you're in your early luteal, you can keep it going with the strength training, like a little bit higher intensity if it feels good, walking, bar, yoga, Pilates, all of that. In your late luteal phase, right before you're about to get your period, you're probably going to want to wind down into walking, stretching, gentle Pilates, just anything low impact, because your energy is going to significantly decrease. Another interesting thing about your luteal phase for anyone who lifts weights, which should be all of us, by the way, is you probably can't lift as heavy in your luteal phase as you can in follicular and ovulation. This is something that is so important to note because it is so frustrating if you just feel weak in the gym or if you feel like you can't keep up at your normal cadence. We need to normalize it. Again, this is something so different than men. Men don't experience this, but then a lot of women who go to male trainers or male-led gyms, this isn't accommodated for. In your luteal phase, you can still lift weights, go crazy. I do it all the time. If it feels good, you can do it. But know that you might need to come down a little bit. You might need to lower your expectations around the intensity at which you can lift with. As far as focus and productivity, again, in your early luteal phase, you can probably still be pretty productive, finishing up projects, editing, organizing admin tasks. Great time for it. Kind of chill stuff that still requires your attention. That's great in early luteal phase. Late luteal phase, this is when things get tricky because this is when you can kind of get some brain fog. You may be easily distracted, more irritable, and again, the mood swings. So I personally try to avoid doing any tedious or super complex tasks in my late luteal phase because my tolerance for frustration is so low. And again, we can't always control our workload from like a 9 to 5 or a corporate setting. But when I was in my business full time, I had this down to a science where I reserved my late luteal phase for just repeat tasks and things that were chill, not time sensitive, and really not high pressure. So if you're able to do that, that is amazing. And then as far as your diet, luteal phase, I will say, in addition to your menstrual phase, this is where you really want to dial in on what you're eating. Complex carbs are key here. So think sweet potatoes, rice, oats, heavy on the sweet potatoes. My doctor, Dr. Monique, she's an incredible naturopath and nutritionist and just an incredible human being. I will link her in the show notes. She got me eating sweet potatoes in my luteal phase like every month. And it's something that I just always do now. You want to focus on magnesium rich foods as well, and then also balanced meals to stabilize your blood sugar. So when I say balanced meals, I'm talking about protein with fats, with carbs, lots of color, lots of leafy greens, making sure that you have literally balance on your plate of different types of foods that are going to meet different needs. And then in your luteal phase is a really great time to reduce caffeine and also reduce or completely cut out alcohol. For me personally, I don't want to speak for you all, but for me personally, when I drink alcohol in my luteal phase, especially my late luteal phase, it really F's me up. The hangovers are next level compared to follicular or ovulation. And that's just something I've noticed over the years. What happens is in your luteal phase after you ovulate, your body temperature slightly increases, about half a degree to a degree, just depending on the person. So because your heart rate and your body temperature already increase, and then what does alcohol do? Alcohol also increases your body temperature and your heart rate. So you're just fighting fire with fire at that point, and it can leave you feeling really depleted. And it can also lead to a more difficult start of your next cycle when you get your period. So something that I've really learned to do as much as I can is to completely cut out or severely limit alcohol in that luteal phase, especially the late luteal phase. So that is like the quickest run through of all of the phases. Just to recap, menstrual is your period. Then you go into follicular, you got your groove back, a little bit of energy. That leads us to ovulation, which is when we are just thriving, shining, feeling our best. And then we come to luteal, which is about half of our cycle and can be broken up into early and late luteal, but has lots of stuff for us to consider. The reason that I felt called to share about the menstrual cycle as part of January's theme of embodiment and building self-trust is because understanding your cycle is really one way that you can build trust within your body. You learn to listen to your body instead of fighting against it. Again, we're raised to keep moving at full speed while we're bleeding. It doesn't matter. Life doesn't stop. You have to keep going, pop the Advil, put a tampon in, and figure it out. And so as adults, when we have a little bit more autonomy over our bodies, it's really incredible to be able to listen to our body instead of fighting against it. It also helps us to stop labeling ourselves as lazy, as unmotivated, as inconsistent. Guess what? In a lot of ways, we are inconsistent because we cannot have the same exact consistency in every area of our life throughout that 28-ish day cycle. So we have to give ourselves grace to pivot and shift and ebb and flow with the waves that our hormones are naturally bringing. It actually works against us to try to show up the same every single day of the month. It also helps us reduce frustration and self-criticism. This is where that luteal phase like really comes in hot. And it's because when we are in that luteal phase, we feel just less attractive and sluggish and swollen and whatever you feel, it's valid. But in that space, if you don't know how to identify, oh, I'm in my luteal phase right now, this makes sense, then you're just going to beat yourself down. You're going to say, I'm so freaking lazy. Why am I getting so frustrated? Why can't I stop crying? Like, this is annoying. You really tear yourself down. But when you have the language and the education to understand the luteal phase, you can have a lot more grace with yourself and you can say, okay, I'm in my luteal phase right now. How about I just rest instead? And when you learn to move and flow with your body, you learn when to push, when to create, when to rest. You know when to go and when to pull back. And I think that's honestly the most beautiful thing about understanding your cycle is being able to say, okay, I feel like I have a lot of energy right now. I'm in my follicular phase. Like, let me actually knock out this to-do list and make the best of this time. And then when you hit that late luteal phase, you can say, phew, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to rest. I'm going to lay on the couch. I'm going to read. And that is okay because I know that my energy will come back. And you start to trust those natural ebbs and flows of the menstrual cycle. If you know you have a huge project to get done, maybe push yourself a little harder in your follicular and ovulation, and then give yourself that permission slip to pull back in your luteal. You also begin to trust that rest is productive. When you're resting in that late luteal phase and in the menstrual phase, you are charging up your body for the phases that are to come. Does this sound familiar? We talked about this in December's episode about the intuitive properties of winter. Winter, which is associated with the menstrual phase, is the time to go inward, to be reflective, to save and restore your energy for spring. Well, think of the menstrual cycle as the same. The menstrual phase, you're inward, you're reflecting, you're resting as a form of productivity at that point to save your energy for follicular and ovulation. It's kind of like you're going inward so that you can show up in your fullest and really bloom when it's time, when it's spring. And then you also really learn that your body is always communicating to you. Growing up, I'm going to keep saying it, we were taught to go full steam ahead. But if we look at the wisdom of our bodies, if you look even to our ancestors and traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, we know that the body is always communicating through signals. And women are intuitive beings. We have this, I'm going to call it magical power, to understand what our body is saying to us. You have it, even if you don't think you have it. It has just been suppressed through the societal expectations that we move forward full steam. So, really understanding cycle syncing and how to pivot at different points of your cycle is going to help you take the signs from your body. You are going to know, okay, I feel a little bit warmer today. I'm probably entering my luteal phase. I just ovulated. Okay, let me slow it down. You are going to know, wow, my energy is really picking up right now. My period's ending. Let me go full steam ahead. Or even, wow, I feel like I'm glowing today. I'm like around day 14. I'm ovulating. Like, let me get shit done. So when you're able to take those signs and actually take aligned action, you are able to get to where you're wanting to go faster. And I'm not saying that because it's a race. I'm not saying that because there's a rush or that you need to hurry to accomplish your goals. But I am saying that it feels a lot better to move forward intentionally, to move forward with listening to your body, and to be more efficient with your time, because that's what cycle syncing has allowed me to do. And what it can allow you to do is just have a deeper understanding of how to be more efficient and also how to be more loving, I think, more than anything, with your body and truly listen to her. So, that is our masterclass today on cycle syncing. I could sit here for 2 more hours and talk to you about it. If you have any questions or want to dive deeper into this topic, shoot me a DM and I would love to know what you want to know so that I can bring it back to the show. Most importantly here, start with awareness, not perfection. Again, it's not realistic to do this perfectly. You still have to participate in life in your luteal phase. You still have to be a human in your menstrual phase. You still have to be a mom or a partner or a employee or a business owner. Those things don't just stop, but having the awareness is going to help you be more mindful so that you can turn those dials up or down as you need. So I would encourage you, if you've never played with cycle syncing before, start by just tracking one cycle. On the day you get your period, that is day 1, write down, what are your symptoms? How are you feeling? What's your energy? And do that for a full cycle and just notice the patterns. start to understand how long your cycle is, if it's regular, if it's not regular, what your common symptoms are. This is a key pillar of your physical health. And it really makes me sad that it's not talked about more, because what happens in your cycle can really tell a lot of stories of what's happening in your body and with your health. So it's really important. When you go to the doctor, they just ask you the first day of your last period. They don't really get into how bad are your symptoms, what are you noticing, what's normal and what's not normal. So I will be dropping my resources, my favorite resources, in the show notes for you, a few books, and then the information to work with my naturopath, Dr. M, who I just adore. And I just encourage you to really start noticing what patterns show up for you. No judgment, just awareness, so that you can live the life that you truly want to live, so that you can have your energy back, so that you can feel good, so you can get proper rest, and so that you can learn to communicate with and understand the signals that your body is constantly putting out for you. All right, my loves, that is it for today's episode. I would love for you to share this episode with a woman in your life, or maybe you even share it with the man in your life, so that they can get a deeper understanding of what is going on with you throughout your cycle. I always, always, always encourage that open line of communication. All right, I will see you in the next episode. As always, thank you for being here. Rate, review, subscribe on YouTube, download the episodes. It means the world. I will see you next week. And until then, be well.